Here we go. Welcome into the show. Happy Wednesday. Hope everybody out there is having a fantastic day. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles now, and we're live right here on Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate all of you for making today's show a part of your day. A lot to get into here in the lead up to the 2024 NFL Draft. Some breaking Eagles news to get to here on this Wednesday. We have a big DeVonta Smith contract update. I'm going to react to Mel Kiper's latest NFL mock draft to see who he has going to the Philadelphia Eagles in the first two rounds. And then we're going to do a prospect visit tracker. I've seen a lot of you in the comment section saying, Chase, you should make that into a segment. I really want to know which prospects are visiting with the Birds before the draft. We're doing that for the people because this channel is for the people. And speaking of all of you, we'll round out the show with the mailbag. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat for your opportunity to get featured here on Eagles Now for thousands of people to see. If you're pumped to see what Howie Roseman does in the draft, we know that he's going to try to be aggressive. He might try to trade up and move up on the draft board. Then I want you to type E down in the comment section here because that gets us started with E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles! Who's typing that E?
Let's go!
Big Al Williams, Dragon, Elijah Stovall, Mike Anusko, Brian Garrison, Don Ackerley, Eric Lovely, Dragon again, Raymond, Burt City, Dan, Al Capper, Sava, Troy, We Made It and Survived, CG1 Pyramid, Michael Stone, The Steagles Podcast, Angela, Donald Quinty, Miguel Cruz, Aquil Knight. Everybody typing those E's. It's a beautiful sight. The Eagles breaking news that we want to get into here. A lot of you might know this news as of right now. I saw Elijah Stovall in the chat. He did a NFL tour this past year. I wonder if he's going to go to the Philadelphia Eagles season opener in 2024. Because for a long time, we've been talking about how the Eagles are going to be playing in Brazil for the season opener. We weren't sure when that game was going to be. Most importantly, we did not know who the opponent was going to be. It is officially set. The Philadelphia Eagles, ladies and gentlemen, will play the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. Here's some more information on the season opener. The game is going to take place on Friday, September 6th. We will be doing a watch party for that game right here on Eagles Now. It's going to be broadcast on Peacock if you can't watch it there. If you can watch it there, still hang out here with us. The opening line, Eagles, 1.5-point favorites, and the over-under set for 46.5. And my thoughts on this game, there were some rumblings it was maybe going to be the Cleveland Browns. That would have been a difficult opponent and a formidable opponent. For Philadelphia, Green Bay Packers also going to pose a difficult test for Philadelphia, and this is a tough opening game. The Eagles are going to be tested here against an upstart Packers team that started last year slow, and then they caught fire. And they made this little run at the end of the regular season in which the offense started to find a rhythm and find its groove. Jordan Love was playing very good football. The defense came to play. They made some necessary adjustments. They get into the playoffs as a wild card team. I liked them. I chose them to beat the Dallas Cowboys. What did they do? They didn't just beat the Dallas Cowboys. They dump trucked the Dallas Cowboys in the wild card round. The offense went crazy. This is a Packers team that can spread it out. 4 or 5 legitimate wide receivers, 2 really good tight ends. They have a new defensive coordinator now, and I think that they're going to be one of the teams that you should take seriously in the NFC in 2024. So to 2024, in my opinion, NFC powers taking center stage in Brazil. And this Eagles team, we're going to see what they're all about on both sides of the rock right from the jump to kick off the 2024 campaign. So with that, it's been a little while since we've been able to throw this graphic up. Who you got? PHI for the Eagles, GB for the Green Bay Packers. I'm looking at our live poll right now. This is good stuff. 99% of the audience going with the Birds, and we bring in producer Chip. Chip, what do you think about this Packers game? What was your instant reaction, and how do you think the Eagles are going to fare in this one?
Well, one, it's going to be electric.
Yeah.
A lot of these games that are international games are usually the crowd there. It's a great atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a great game to kick off the season. And, you said it, the Packers, a tough team to have to go up against. Jordan Love obviously sort of proved himself last year to be the guy for the Packers. Now in his second full year starting, really looking to take that next step. They obviously brought in Josh Jacobs. They paid Xavier McKinney. You said they fired their DC. That's a huge upgrade for the Packers because Joe Barry was terrible, having their corners just sit back. A.J. Brown versus Jair Alexander. It's going to be great. It's a star-studded matchup, a young team, especially a lot of young receivers. So going to be a test early on for the secondary. It's a great matchup, as you said. I could see either of these two teams going deep in the playoffs. Just an exciting week one matchup to kick off the season. You couldn't ask for it any better. I'm sick of playing the Commanders or the Falcons every single year week one. So
yeah, it's going to be a much more difficult test as compared to some of those previous season openers that you talked about. And as you look ahead, this could decide a lot as far as NFC playoff seeding goes. That defensive coordinator that we were talking about, Jeff Hafley, he takes the DC job after he was the head coach at Boston College. A lot of these college coaches have decided, I don't want to deal with this NIL. I don't want to deal with the transfer portal. Let me go to a job where I don't have to deal with all of that and some job security. So Jeff Hafley, hired by Matt LaFleur to be the Packers' new defensive coordinator. And let's just throw out some names at this Eagles defense. Vic Fangio, they're going to be tested right from the jump. Christian Watson, tall, vertical threat, speed guy, really good 40-yard dash coming out of North Dakota State, has dealt with a lot of hamstring issues, but he's a really solid player. You have Romeo Doubs, who's an excellent player. Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks. Chip mentioning that they signed Josh Jacobs as their version of an upgrade over Aaron Jones. Not the pass-catching back that Aaron Jones is, but a physical bell cow type of back. So that tells me Green Bay changing their identity a little bit, trying to go more physical downhill with their offensive approach. And then their two tight ends in Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. Very high-level impact players. That Packers team going to be a good one here in 2024. Here's our Super Chat menu for today's show. And by the way, everybody who piles in here to catch us on Eagles Now, make sure you support the show for free. Hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. All Super Chats will get a shout out. $10 gets you in the running for our April jersey race. If you support the show, we want to say thank you. At the end of this month, we'll tally all of the Super Chats that came in, $10 or more, and we'll give away an Eagles jersey, $20 Super Chat. Let's get swole. Eagles are doing that this offseason with their offseason workouts. We'll do 20 push-ups for that 20. 50 you can make us drink. And if somebody sends in a $100 Super Chat, you could pick a segment that we're going to do right here on Eagles Now. You want to get on the show? Get those questions in starting right now. Hashtag Eagles or send in a Super Chat. And if you're ready to talk some birds, I need you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Recent commenter club, Go Birds 21, Brian Doherty. Who else am I seeing? Iron Mike, Harold Brown. Thanks for hanging out here with us. CG1, DeAdrian Hawthorne. Am I in the April jersey drawing? Of course you are, my guy. You are our Super Chat MVP last week, and we're going to get that Chat Sports shirt out to you as well. Damascus Roberts, Ware Dover, Lamont Lancaster, Robert Alessandrini. It's great to see some OGs back in the building. And at the end of this month, keep in mind, we're going to be live. This is crazy. I know it, but we love it. Every single round, every single pick of the draft. So make sure you bookmark that, you remember that, so that you can hang out with us for the 2024 NFL Draft. 183 people watching live. 61 likes right now. You pumped up to talk some Eagles? Support the show, please. The more likes that we get, more people who will hang out here with us, and the more people who will discover the show to understand what we do here on Eagles Now. All right, Chip's ready to go. I'm ready to go. 4 segments in the canister for today's Philadelphia Eagles Now live. Now let's talk some birds right now. Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. On the Eagles Now rundown for this episode, a Mel Kiper Mock Draft reaction. We're going to take a look at who the ESPN NFL Draft analyst has the Birds taking in the first two rounds of the NFL Draft. First, I want to start with this, and I want to gauge where the audience is at. The peak of NFL free agency has certainly died down. Howie Roseman, busy as always. Some people out there like the NFL Draft more than NFL free agency. I like both of them because it's a lot of fun to be on this post in the position that I'm in, talking about the Birds. It's a great job to have. It's a dream job for me to have. There's no doubt about that. Producer Chip, he's right with me on that sentiment, but I want you to like the video if you're excited to see what Howie Roseman is going to do in the NFL Draft, and let's gauge how many people are pumped up for the end of this month and which players are going to be future Philadelphia Eagles. To the Mel Kiper Mock Draft reaction here, and I want you to look ahead, end of April, draft coming at you, Detroit. We'll be live every single day, every single pick right here on the channel. And I want you to remember this here, how the top 5 goes could impact what happens with Philadelphia later in the first round. Currently, they're slated at 22 overall. But QBs going off the board early, what does it do essentially? It allows quality players to slide down the draft board, and those players could fall to Philadelphia, or the Eagles could be within range to trade up for a player that they really covet. And in Mel Kiper's latest mock draft, check out how many quarterbacks he has going inside the top 5. Four of the first 5 picks here, all signal callers, all quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, number 1 to the Bears. That's not a surprise. There is growing buzz that maybe the Commanders are not going to go with Drake May and instead draft the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels out of LSU, which then in turn allows Drake May to fall to number 3, where the New England Patriots get their franchise quarterback hopeful. Marvin Harrison Jr., the first non-quarterback off the board to the Arizona Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon and company desperately need a top-tier wideout for Kyler Murray. And then he has the Vikings trading up to number 5 in a deal with the Los Angeles Chargers to make a splash here and take J.J. McCarthy, national championship winning quarterback out of Michigan, who I think is a little bit raw, but maybe they sit him behind Sam Darnold and they allow him that easy runway to then become the starter in 2025 or beyond. If the draft goes like that, like Mel Kiper is predicting, it's great news for the Philadelphia Eagles for the reasons that I talked about, because some of those upper echelon players fall and slide down the draft board, which is great news for Howie Roseman and this front office. Other notable picks here prior to the Eagles selecting at 22 overall. Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia, going to the Jets at number 10. That makes a lot of sense. Robert Saleh has an obsession with building up the defensive side of the football. If they bring in another offensive weapon, though, for Aaron Rodgers, that team very, very scary because, let's face it, that defense is already in a good spot after they traded for Hassan Reddick with all of the other players that they have. Quinion Mitchell off the board to the Denver Broncos at number 12. Quinion Mitchell, Patrick Surtain, 1-2 cornerback punch. Could Denver build up the defense in that way? Talis Fuaga, offensive lineman, Oregon State, going to the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders desperately need to fortify the trenches. Cooper DeJean, after his great pro day in which his athletic testing numbers were off the charts, he goes to the Jags at number 17. And then Leatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA, to the Los Angeles Rams at number 19. These are all players here who the Eagles have interest in, have top 30 visits with, or they're appealing to Philadelphia in the way that Brock Bowers is. Now let's go to the Eagles here at number 22. What does Mel Kiper have the Birds doing? Clemson cornerback Nate Wiggins. Some of you watching right now are going to be very excited about that selection. Other people watching are not going to like this pick. But Nate Wiggins certainly has a lot of potential. He is a blazing fast cornerback who ran a 4.3 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine, has a knack for making plays on the football. He can go step for step with some of the quicker and some of the best overall wide receivers at the NFL level if he continues his ascent. The weakness to his game, he has an extremely small frame, and it's going to be really difficult for him to add muscle and add weight because the frame kind of is what it is at this point. And because he's a little bit slight, he does struggle to make tackles in the run game and struggles to hold his own in the run game and shed some of those blockers. Also, you have some concern if he were to get matched up with the physical specimen at the wide receiver spot like an A.J. Brown, who might beat him at the line with that overall physicality. But Wiggins' numbers in 2023 were really good. What he's been able to do throughout his NFL career, very impressive. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 82.5, a coverage grade of 83.9. He only allowed a completion rate when targeted of 43.9% and a passer rating when targeted of 44.4%. Some solid quarterbacks in the ACC, so those numbers certainly stand out to you. He can play man, he can play zone. Vic Fangio is going to mix and match a lot of that. Man coverage grade of 78.5, zone coverage grade of 74 flat, 7 pass breakups, 2 picks. And then you look at the overall resume in 3 years with Clemson. Only 4 games played in 2021, but 13 played in 2022 with 13 pass breakups. That's really where he started to catch the attention of a lot of NFL draft evaluators and a lot of teams that were looking at him coming out of the draft a year later in the 2023-2024 cycle. And then this past year, the numbers that we just broke down for you. So what say you? Do you like Mel Kiper's pick of Nate Wiggins to the Eagles at number 22? I want you to type L for like, D for dislike. Sound off with your opinions down in the comment section right now. Today's Philadelphia Eagles now is sponsored by Game Time. It is the best app if you're looking for the best seats at the lowest price guaranteed at the last possible moment. And what's great about the Game Time app is that prices drop as the event gets closer, and you get in the door with the lowest price guaranteed. And I always think it's important to put together some lifelong memories with people who you really care about. You're able to do that by going to some sporting events. And if you're looking for tickets to a sporting event, you can find them. Philadelphia Phillies game, Philadelphia 76ers game, Citizens Bank Park, one of the most beautiful ballparks in all of Major League Baseball. And as you can see here to my right, to get into the door for Pirates Phillies this upcoming weekend at CBP, after the Phillies took 2 of 3 from the Nationals, 2 of 3 from the St. Louis Cardinals. Kind of on a roll now, catching their stride, although the bats need to get going, but they will once the temperatures warm up. And then some Philadelphia 76ers playoff games also going to be available too. Eagles tickets, Phillies tickets, Sixers tickets, but also if you like to go to concerts, you like to go to comedy shows, theater events, they have it all. $20 off, a fantastic deal. Thanks to our friends at Game Time. We're going to put this link down below in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. We really appreciate them for making today's show possible. Do we have Mel Kiper's reaction to taking Nate Wiggins? Is that the quote that we have potentially there, Chip? If not, we can move on to who the Eagles take at number 50 overall. All right, let's go to the Eagles selection with the 50th overall pick. And this is something that we've been talking about a lot here. The Eagles have 3 picks inside the top 53. 22, 50, 53. They are going to go with an offensive lineman at some point with their first couple of picks here. And here, Mel Kiper doesn't have the Eagles going offensive lineman round 1, which increasingly I think they might do, but they do go offensive line, in particular offensive tackle, with the 50th overall pick with the Houston juggernaut in Patrick Paul. Here's what Mel Kiper had to say about Patrick Paul. Philadelphia is another team that could benefit from this talented offensive tackle class. If it goes defense in round 1, it might still be able to find a future offensive tackle starter right here at 50. Paul could serve as a swing tackle as a rookie, as Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, entrenched as the starters. Johnson, however, has dealt with nagging injuries in recent years, so acquiring depth is important. Paul started 39 games at left tackle for the Cougars. If you're wondering what Mel Kiper said about Nate Wiggins. He said, Philadelphia's defense fell apart at the end of last year. Top corners Darius Slay, James Bradbury in their 30s. It's time to add an injection of youth in the secondary. Wiggins surrendered just one completion of 20-plus yards in 2023 and has outstanding speed, a 4.28 40-yard dash at the NFL Combine, a 4.3 average is what Wiggins was able to do. Going back to Patrick Paul here, the value of Paul dropping to number 50, I think is really good value for the Eagles here. And Mel Kiper even said that. If you don't go offensive tackle in round 1, you could still get a pretty solid player at 50. Also, keep this in mind. 50 and 53, you package those picks, maybe you can get to the mid-40s. Maybe you can get to the 40th overall pick to take a player who you really like at that spot. Paul, great size, 6'7", 331 pounds, 36.25-inch arms. So that's ideal arm length for a tackle that you want on the outside. And at that size, he ran a 5.13 40-yard dash. His weaknesses, he plays a little bit high, so if a defensive lineman's able to get good leverage, he can sometimes get uprooted, but you always have confidence that Jeff Stoutland is going to be able to bring the best out of the player. As for his Pro Football Focus grades in 2023, overall grade of 81.1, he only gave up 1 sack, 1 hit, 7 hurries, and 3 penalties. An agile athlete who's able to move really well. Eagles back on the board a couple of picks later at 53, and I like the philosophy, the overall philosophy here from Mel Kiper. Cornerback is the biggest need on this roster, in my opinion. Offensive line depth, and then a future offensive tackle is right there. And I've said it for a long time, I'd like to see Philadelphia get a legit young wide receiver to pair along A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith. That's kind of what Kiper is thinking here with his philosophy, where the Eagles go with Jalen Polk, right? Was it Jalen Polk out of Washington? And I think the Eagles need a wide receiver next to Brown and Smith. Now, what's interesting is that Rome Odunze is going to be a top 10 pick, I think. Jalen McMillan is the other Washington wide receiver who actually, in Kiper's mock, goes a couple of picks before his other teammate in Jalen Polk. Goes to show you how stacked this Washington roster was in 2023. Big reason why they made it to the national championship. Here's what Kiper had to say about Jalen Polk. That's right, a third Huskies wideout in the top 2 rounds. Polk is a big play threat who averaged 17 yards per catch in his final 2 college seasons. He put up 1,159 receiving yards with 9 scores in 2023, with Michael Penix throwing him the rock, by the way. Did most of his damage on deep balls. I already addressed the Eagles' issues at corner and offensive tackle, which means they could add to their pass-catching core with this selection. Polk has good size. He has good length. He is a sizable target. He does need to refine his route running. He can learn a little bit of that from A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith, 2 strengths to their game. And he can also do a better job of finishing in traffic. You know, he has that size, but sometimes he plays a little bit smaller than that size. So when things get muddy downfield, sometimes he can struggle to pull down the football. You look at his production over the last 2 years, really burst onto the scene as a bona fide superstar in 2023. In 2022, a solid season, no doubt. 41 catches, 694 yards, 16.9 yards per catch. So when Mel Kiper says he's a big play threat, 16.9 yards per catch in 2022, 16.8 in 2023. He's combined for 15 receiving touchdowns the last 2 years. The drop number's not bad by any estimation. 2 years ago for this past year. And then this year, those 69 catches, very nice. More than 1,100 yards. And those numbers are very, very solid. So that's Mel Kiper's mock draft here for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I like it to a certain degree as far as the players selected, where the value is. I'd have no problems with Wiggins going 22. Patrick Paul, very good value at 50. And then you go wide receiver there at 53 overall. How do you think Kiper did? A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know. Couple of super chats that came in that we want to relay and say thank you for. Kelly Knock with the $5 super chat. She sent in a lot of super chats over time and a lot of super thanks on some of our regular videos. Elijah Stovall checking the hairline prices to go to Brazil. Might just do 6 NFC games. My man, have a blast with that. Good to see you back in the building. And then speaking of Super Chat OGs, Kelly, Elijah, Paul, if Brian Thomas is available, do you think the Eagles pick him or another position like cornerback or offensive line? If they strictly go best player available and Brian Thomas falls to number 22, I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Brian Thomas. And then you think about an offense that has A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Brian Thomas, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley with this offensive line, with Kellen Moore calling the plays, Jalen Hurts slinging the rock. My goodness, that could be scary. Here's our Super Chat menu. So Paul is in the Elijah is in the April jersey race right now. We had the Super Chats come in from Kelly and Paul as well. All Super Chats always get a shout out. $20, we'll do 20 push-ups. $50, you can make a drink. And if somebody sends in a $100 Super Chat, you can choose a segment for us to do right here on the channel, and we'll, of course, give you a shout out within that video. Segment 1 down, 3 more to go. Our 4th segment will be a mailbag. Start getting your questions in right now. Hashtag Eagles or send in a Super Chat. We'll get to segment number 2 coming up here in just a second.
Yes, sir. Get those in. I saw my man, the realest of the real, Peter Thurman.
Peter Thurman's in the house.
Getting some questions in.
Peter
I like what
Thurman.
Millie says here too, Millie. I'm just so excited for the draft.
I can't wait for the draft.
Oh, I just can't wait to see there's so many different options the Eagles have. I'm so excited to see what Howie does. You know he's going to kill it.
How about Deep Space dropping his mock in the comment section? He said, I got one. Cooper DeJean in the 1st round. Edger and Cooper 2nd round. Cooper Beebe right after Edger and Cooper. Grade your draft, honestly, for me, it's a B+. It's pretty damn good right there. I really like it. Brian Doherty using hashtag Eagles. Don Ackerley, Cooper Mania. I know he's a white corner, but he's a freak athlete, man. And I think that he could be used as a chess piece on this defense. Then you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Cooper DeJean as players who you can just utilize all across the defense. Pretty impressive. Jason Chadwick, $5 Super Chat. Smooth extension soon. I really would love Justin Simmons, but I want Xavier Worthy. But I wouldn't mind an offensive tackle. Are you saying instead of smooth extension, DeVonta Smith contract extension? If that's what you meant, that's great timing right there. Because we're literally about to talk about a major Eagles report on a DeVonta Smith contract extension. That's going to be segment number 2. Deep Space salute. Hey, salute. Thanks for watching the show. Jeremy Atkins, if Howie was to move up, how far do you realistically think he would move up to get our cornerback of the future? He's at 22 overall. 15, 14. Now, it would probably take 22 and one of the 2 second-round picks, either 50 or 53, to move up that far. But 50, 53, and 22, that's premium draft capital right there. Reed Barkas, see you guys on the 24th. How about this? Reed Barkas, such a loyal viewer of Eagles now, we actually hired him to work at Chat Sports. So Reed is going to be joining us here in a couple of weeks at the end of the month, right before the NFL draft. Everybody type RB in the chat to say congratulations to him. Type RB in the chat. A lot of you have seen him in the chat since going back to last preseason.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
It's a childhood friend of producer Chip.
Oh, yeah. Exciting times.
Even though Chip went to the bosses and said, please don't hire him. We still hired him.
You don't want him. Just kidding, Reed.
Just kidding, Reed. All right, segment number 2 coming up. Who's ready for it? Who's ready for it? Aquil McKnight, Dragon, Deep Space, Millie315. I see y'all in the comment section. And let's get to segment number 2 right here, live on Eagles Now. Yo, what's good? Welcome into the show. Coming up on today's Philadelphia Eagles Now, we have a major DeVonta Smith contract update. It's been very silent this offseason as far as that issue goes with this football team. Not any longer. Tim McManus, Eagles insider for ESPN, with a very interesting report on the DeVonta Smith contract front, and also Have the Eagles' draft plans been revealed, and are they honing in on two players who they absolutely adore? Stay tuned for that at the back end of the show. Let's start off here with DeVonta Smith. Big report from Tim McManus, as I said, and he reports that the ball is rolling on a DeVonta Smith contract extension. And there's really not any pressure to get this done right away, right now, for a couple of reasons that we'll unpack here throughout the show. But McManus saying that the Eagles are making efforts behind the scenes to lock up DeVonta Smith to a long-term contract extension. The Eagles have given out lucrative extensions already this offseason to Landon Dickerson, making him the highest paid guard in the history of football per year at $21 million per year. And they locked up Jordan Mailata on a contract extension, which makes him the fourth highest paid offensive tackle in the National Football League. And since being selected 10th overall out of Alabama after he won the Heisman Trophy, DeVonta Smith has done nothing but produce for this football team, and he has been a very, very good player. A lot of different elements of this report that we want to hit here on today's Eagles Now. Let's start off with this one from McManus. He says, the front office has been busy this offseason locking core players into long-term deals. Offensive linemen have been the primary beneficiaries to this point. Guard Landon Dickerson signed a record-breaking 4-year, $84 million extension in March, and tackle Jordan Mailata followed by inking a 3-year, $66 million deal earlier this month. The focus now shifts to one of their most important skill position players. The Eagles are making efforts behind the scenes to get something done with 25-year-old DeVonta Smith. Contract talks are ongoing. Sources familiar with the negotiations said, and there's general optimism that a deal will materialize in the near future. And you think about the Eagles' draft history, especially under Howie Roseman. Philadelphia has missed on so many wide receivers, especially over the last few years before DeVonta Smith. From Jalen Reagor to J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, it has been a weak point for Philadelphia. And over the last several years, they're top 5 in the most amount of wide receivers drafted, but the hit rate extremely low. They finally hit on DeVonta Smith, who's everything that this city is about, who's everything that this fan base is about. Being a good player, being available, toughness, swagger, confidence, but it's that silent confidence that I really like. He's kind of just a silent assassin. Off the field, carries himself in a very normal way. I saw him on Super Bowl Radio Row earlier this year in Las Vegas. By the way, he's a lot taller than what people give him credit for, but he just carried himself like a routine dude. On the field, though, he's a menace. He's nasty. He's uber competitive, and that was seen at Alabama when he put up terrific numbers, and those numbers have translated to the NFL level. And Philadelphia knows how valuable DeVonta Smith is. That's why I've said it all along. I think they strike a long-term deal with DeVonta Smith. I think it's only a matter of time. And when I was at the NFL Combine earlier in March, Howie Roseman said what we're about to show you, and it kind of gave you a peek into the window that the Eagles want him around for the long haul.
Well, DeVonta is an incredible person, an incredible player, obviously homegrown, young guy. Without getting into specifics, those aren't guys that you really want to leave.
So you heard it there from the Eagles general manager, right? At the end of that, he's a special player. And we don't just want to let special players go, especially a player who's younger. Philadelphia this offseason, after having the third oldest defense in the NFL, they've slashed that. And they've gotten a lot younger on the defensive side of the football. And then offensively, they're locking up their young players here. Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata. They paid Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, still young. The core players on the offensive side of the football and defensive side of the football are younger. So the arrow is pointing up, I believe, for this football team for the foreseeable future. DeVonta Smith next in line. And when I talk about that deadline here, let's get back to that talking point because this is obviously important for a lot of people watching to know. The Eagles aren't really working against any deadline. The Eagles have a couple of options at their disposal here. Base salary in 2024 for DeVonta Smith is $1 million. They have until May 2nd to exercise his fifth-year option. So in turn, if they exercise that, he's under team control for the next 2 years, 2024 and in 2025. A lot of teams across the NFL will wait until next offseason to pay a first-round pick of this caliber after they exercise that fifth-year option. If he does play under that fifth-year option, DeVonta Smith would be owed about $16 million for 2025. But compared to other teams who do wait, the Eagles have a history of paying players early. Why do they do that? They do that knowing that the price tags for these premium players and assets usually goes up if you do wait. So that's why they try to get in at below market value or at an affordable price tag for their liking. Obviously, with DeVonta Smith, the question becomes, he's still going to make a lot of money. But how much will DeVonta Smith get? Tim McManus is saying somewhere in the neighborhood of potentially $25 million, which is a lot for DeVonta Smith. Highest paid wide receivers per year right now, Tyreek Hill leading the charge at $30 million per, Devontae Adams, $28 million per, Cooper Kupp at 26.7, fellow Eagle A.J. Brown at 25 flat. So will DeVonta Smith tie him? Obviously, that was a couple of years ago, and the market was a little bit lower. DK Metcalf at 24, in addition to Stephon Diggs. Deebo Samuel right after that at 23.85. Michael Pittman Jr., now number 8 after his lofty contract extension with the Colts at 23.3. Calvin Ridley at 23 even, and then Terry McLaurin at 22.79. I personally think $25 million is a little bit too much for DeVonta Smith, but look, all he's done, produced for Philadelphia. And since being that Heisman Trophy winner at Alabama, crazy numbers in the national championship game, that play is translated to South Philadelphia and beyond. 2021 rookie year, 64 catches, 916 yards, 5 touchdowns. Sophomore campaign, 95 catches, 1,100 plus yards, 7 touchdowns. And this past year, the catches go down compared to 2022 by 14, but he still has more than 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think it's really important for Philadelphia to keep this wide receiver duo together. 158 targets for A.J. Brown last year, 106 catches, nearly 1,500 yards, 7 touchdowns, average yards per catch at 13.7. And when you put that alongside DeVonta Smith, that gives you one of the best wide receiver duos in the National Football League. The market could be dictated for DeVonta Smith by what Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb get. So Spotrac projecting that CeeDee Lamb gets $30 million per year, and Justin Jefferson gets about $32 million per year. So if CeeDee Lamb gets 30, does that in turn increase the price tag for DeVonta Smith? What say you? Would you pay DeVonta Smith $25 million per season? Share your thoughts with us down below in the comment section. Have the Eagles draft plans been revealed? We're going to get to that next. Stay tuned. But first, make sure you sign up with Prize Picks, the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America and the best daily fantasy sports app in North America. They make daily fantasy sports easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on the projected stat lines, and you can win up to 25 times your money. You get a $100 deposit match by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Obviously, football season is in the rear view, but a great few days is coming up in Augusta, Georgia. Should I talk softly to you like I'm a golf announcer? Because we have some golf prize picks here. Phil Mickelson, 2.5 birdies or better on the opening day of the Masters. Let's go less. And then Victor Hovland, 3.5 birdies or better. Let's go more on the opening day of the Masters. You can win big money and withdraw your winnings all within the Prize Picks app. Pick more, pick less with Prize Picks. prizepicks.com/CLNS. All right. Segment number 2 of the show. Have the Eagles draft plans been revealed? What is this man thinking right here? We already know he's thinking about a DeVonta Smith contract extension as we covered here on the show. What will Howie Roseman do in the 2024 NFL Draft? And have the Eagles' draft plans been revealed? Let's talk about it here. So you look at the Eagles' top 30 visits by position. Does this give you a peek into what the Eagles might be preferring in the first round of the draft? They have so far visited with 7 offensive linemen, 4 cornerbacks, 3 edge rushers, 2 wide receivers, 2 linebackers, and 1 interior defensive lineman. Each team across the NFL is given 30 visits with some of these NFL draft prospects. So this list and the amount of players who are going to be visiting the NovaCare Complex in South Philadelphia is due to change. It's very fluid, but as of right now, pretty interesting that Philadelphia has 7 visits set with some offensive linemen here. And the Eagles' history with some of these top 30 visits is important. It is an indication that they have a high level of interest in those players who visit the team facility. Last year, Philadelphia took 7 players. 4 of their first 5 picks were among the 30 allotted pre-draft visits that they had prior to the draft. And right now, there's a lot of buzz. There are a lot of rumblings that Philadelphia really likes 2 players. Offensive lineman Troy Fuatanu out of Washington. He can play tackle, shorter arms, so maybe at the NFL level, he plays guard. And they're said to really like Cooper DeJean, the cornerback safety returner hybrid out of Iowa, who was just fully cleared coming off that fractured fibula, which he suffered in practice in November. A big-time player in the secondary. More on him in a moment. Let's start off here with Fuatanu. So, according to a report, the Eagles have met twice with him in the pre-draft process. You're not going to meet with the prospect 2 times unless you really, really are about what that player brings to the football field. Let's go over some strengths and weaknesses for Troy Fuatanu. Played in the national championship for Washington, had an opportunity actually to interview him at the college football playoff national title in Houston. Then I watched him specifically up close because I knew at the time he could be an Eagles draft target. His strengths: he has really good bend, really good balance, light, quick feet. Always important for an offensive lineman. And when you play tackle, but you might play guard at the next level, you're playing tackle, you have to be fleet of foot. He has a very powerful punch, and he's a graceful mover. When he moves to that second and third level on some of those pull blocks, when you have to block some linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties, you have to be able to have that quick first step, mastered by the likes of Jason Kelce, to get to that level to block for your running backs and your tight ends and your wide receivers downfield. He's able to do that. What I love about him, he is a vicious competitor, and he has this nasty streak. Well, he will pancake you and drive you into the ground. He's also been durable. Started every game over the last 2 years for Washington, and inside the locker room, he's looked at as one of the team captains, a leader, and that positional versatility important for Philadelphia because I believe he's a plug-and-play guy from day one and a plug-and-play guy who could play multiple positions along the offensive line. His weaknesses: penalties. Sometimes he's undisciplined, and sometimes because of those shorter arms, he can get caught holding. 3 holds, 2 false starts in 2023. He is going to turn 24 for his rookie season. I don't make as much of a deal of that as other people do because can you be an impact player for the next 5 to 7 years? That takes you to 29 to 31 years old. Still a great age, especially for an offensive lineman. The shorter arms, might have to play him at guard to really maximize him as an athlete at the next level. When he does play tackle, he can struggle with some inside moves, which is why he might pop to the interior. Fuatanu is one of the top 10, 15 players in this draft class. And when you pair up his potential and his ability with the best offensive line coach in the NFL in Jeff Stoutland, he can develop the heck out of offensive linemen, Ken Stoutland. He can develop Fuatanu into a perennial Pro Bowl player. As for Cooper DeJean, when I was at the NFL Combine, I did report this as my boots were on the ground in Indianapolis, that at that time, the only top 30 visit that Iowa defensive back Cooper DeJean had set right then was with the Philadelphia Eagles. Niners, Seahawks, Saints, Packers have all shown some interest. Now that fractured fibula, a little bit of a concern, but he's been cleared medically coming off of that injury. So he just had his pro day earlier this week on Monday. And I don't know if it was a solar eclipse day or this dude is just built different. I think it's the latter. His testing numbers were off the charts. A 9.89 on the relative athletic score testing from 0 to 10. So, translation, excellent athlete. Stands at 6 foot, 203 pounds. He bench pressed 225 16 times. Oftentimes, you don't see cornerbacks bench that many reps because you don't really have to, playing on the outside, because oftentimes those players are a little bit slighter. Not a problem with Cooper DeJean. Great vertical leap, almost at 40 inches there. Ran a 4.43 40-yard dash at more than 200 pounds. In 2023, 10 games played, season cut short because of that broken leg, 41 tackles, 2 TFLs, 5 pass breakups, and 2 interceptions. And his overall numbers, like the TFLs, the pass breakups, the interceptions, I think that you can play him at the next level at all 3 levels of your defense. He certainly held up in coverage in 2023 where he did not give up a touchdown in coverage when he was targeted, only surrendered a quarterback rating of 37.8. He was targeted 46 times, only gave up 20 catches for 194 yards. His career numbers in 3 seasons, seldom used in 2021, started to gain some traction in 2022, and then put together another really good season in 2023. 705 defensive snaps. So even with that injury, he still played a lot this past campaign. Only gave up those 20 catches, no touchdowns, and a couple of interceptions. His strengths, he is a freak athlete and has a variety of techniques at the cornerback spot. Backpedals well, too. He anticipates well. And he's credited that with playing quarterback in high school. So he could predict and foresee plays happening and make a beat on the football. That comes, according to him, from him playing quarterback on the other side of the football. He returned 3 of his 7 career interceptions for touchdowns. So when he gets his hands on the football, he makes things happen, ladies and gentlemen. Has the versatility of a Trent McDuffie, who we saw beautifully utilized in the Super Bowl against San Francisco for Kansas City, and he also has special teams value as a returner. And now that the return rules are different, do you value weapons who can make plays happen with the ball in their hands? Could Cooper DeJean be your kick returner? Something to keep an eye out for. His weaknesses, coming off that broken leg, he does sometimes give up that initial separation. There are some questions. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? He can sometimes get handsy in coverage, which does lead to some pass interference calls. So Philadelphia really liking 2 of these players, according to some of the latest draft buzz. Troy Fuatano, offensive lineman out of Washington. Cooper DeJean in the secondary for Iowa. If you had to pick one with an Eagles first-round pick, let's call it at 22 overall, who would you go with? Let me know down in the comment section right now. Oh! DeAndrian Hawthorne, a $50 super chat. EAGLES Eagles. Thank you for that, DeAndrian. We are going to give you a gold sticker, and we are going to put you on the Philadelphia Eagles helmet here, the beautiful midnight green helmet. Thank you, DeAndrian, for that $50 super chat. You are the man.
DeAndrian, real one.
So DH.
Let's get some DHs in the chat for DeAndrian Hawthorne.
DH going on the Eagles Now helmet. Gave you a gold sticker last week, but we're giving you another one. Back-to-back Super Chat MVP. Jason Chadwick with the $5 Super Chat. He said, sorry for the spelling errors. I was driving. I meant Smitty. Happy we're going to keep him long-term, but still want Justin Simmons and can't jet-worthy. He does have jets, 4.21 40-yard dash. I'll be happy if Howie's cooking. Clearly, Jason is still driving, but he's still watching the show, hopefully safely. Thank you, my man. Tommy Curzio, he is a first-time Super Chatter. Thank you, Tommy. He has his notifications on. He's always in the comment section as part of the Noti gang. So, Tommy, first time Super Chatter. Thank you, my brother. Here's our Super Chat menu. All Super Chats get a shout out. 10 or more gets you in our April jersey race. So, D'Adrian, you sent in, I think, 2 50s last week and another 50 today. That's 3 submissions for our April jersey race. $20, I'll do 20 push-ups. By the way, we're 19 away from 100 right now. 50, you make us drink. 100, you can pick a segment for us to do on Eagles Now. And I will be shotgunning this Happy Dad, not a sponsor, but should be, for our guy D'Adrian Hawthorne for that $50 Super Chat. Stay tuned for that.
Yes, sir.
Good content so far today. Thanks for hanging out here. More content to get to. Content Daddies.
Content Daddies. And we're going to have a mailbag coming up soon, so keep getting those questions in. We've had a bunch of great questions so far. One more seg, then our mailbag. So keep using hashtag Eagles, send in a super chat, get those in. Appreciate all the real ones hanging out with us today.
Yes, sir. So coming up next is a segment that a lot of people have asked about. Chase, can you do a top 30 visits tracker? I want to know who the Eagles have met with. We're going to do that coming up next. Don Ackerley, Deep Space, Nick Stone, Jeremy Adkins, part of the recent commenter club. Jeremy Atkins, would you take Cooper DeJean? Depending on how the board falls, I definitely have interest in the player. Henry Braxton, what was the breaking news about? Come on. Well, we do have some breaking news. Chip, do we want to show him the breaking news? He thinks that there's not breaking news, but that means that you're just tuning into the show, when in reality, we have been live now for almost an hour. The Eagles breaking news. This season opening opponent is official. We already talked about this on the show. The Philadelphia Eagles will be playing the Green Bay Packers in Brazil. Now, Henry, that's not the only thing that we're talking about today. Draft news, draft buzz, draft targets, all that stuff. So we're not just talking breaking news, which is also why in the title it says Mel Kiper Draft Reaction, and we already did that on the show. See what I'm saying? All right. Segment number 3, Top 30 Visits Tracker. Let's get to that right now, and then we'll do a mailbag to start taking your questions. Today's Philadelphia Eagles Now is sponsored by 8 Sleep. Let me ask you this. Do you want to improve your sleep? Do you want to have a comfortable and great night of sleep? You can do it with 8 Sleep. Their pod cover is basically a temperature-controlled mattress pad that you put over your mattress pad, and if you use our link down below, 8sleep.com/chatsports, you get $200 off and free shipping. We'll tell you more about them coming up here in just a bit. On the show for today, we're going to do a segment that a lot of people have been asking me to do in the comment section, and that's the value of you commenting on our videos. Producer Chip and I, we go back to look at what you say, and a lot of people have been asking us to do an Eagles draft target visit tracker. Some of the players that they have visited with are set to have visits with as part of their top 30 allotted pre-draft visits. And the Eagles do have a history with drafting a lot of the players who they meet with in the pre-draft process. It's an indication that they have a high level of interest in that player. And it's not just first-round picks. Some of the players that they've met with or are going to meet with prior to the NFL draft at the end of April are wide-ranging. First-round picks, second-round picks, some mid to late-round picks as well. The Eagles just want to gauge what that player is about and if they fit into their culture in Philadelphia, if they can handle the pressure cooker of playing in the city of brotherly love. This is interesting here. The Eagles took 7 players in the 2023 NFL draft, and 4 of their first 5 picks were 30 visits. Keep in mind, this list that we're about to show you is fluid. It is going to change. Some of the reported visits have been mysteriously canceled. And there's a little bit of a conspiracy theory about that other teams have started to realize that the Eagles take these visits seriously. And it's an indication that they might draft the players, which then in turn forces other teams to hop in front of Philadelphia to take that player. So these meetings, some of them have been canceled at the last moment. Maybe Philadelphia not making some of those visits all too public because they don't want to show their cards to other teams across the NFL. The rules for this are interesting. All teams across the NFL, there are 32 of them, are allowed visits with 30 prospects prior to the draft. Of course, you could take players who you do not meet with, but maybe some of those players you have more of an intel into. So let's run through this list. And let's start off with this set of 5 players, and we'll give you some scouting information on all of them. Troy Fuatanu, offensive lineman out of Washington. He could play tackle. He can play along the interior of the offensive line. Roger Rosengarten, another offensive tackle for Washington. Fuatanu played left tackle. Rosengarten played right tackle for the Huskies last year. Jarian Jones, defensive back out of Florida State. Kalen Carson, defensive back out of Wake Forest. And Andrew Phillips, a defensive back out of Kentucky. Fuatanu is a player who the Eagles have said to really, really like. They visited with him now twice in the pre-draft process. He has really good bend, balance, and feet, a very powerful punch. He's a graceful mover for how big he is. He's a vicious competitor with the streak of nastiness. He started every game over the last 2 years for Washington. Team leader, a lot of versatility. Can play offensive tackle, but shorter arms, so he might have to play guard at the next level to truly maximize his skill set. His weaknesses, 3 holds and 2 false starts. He can get a little bit handsy because his arms are a little bit shorter. He is a little bit older for an incoming rookie. He's going to turn 24 this season. The shorter arms, again, could make him play guard at the next level. And because he has those shorter arms, in addition to him getting a little bit handsy, leading to some of those penalties, he can struggle with some of those inside moves when he plays offensive tackle. That's why a lot of draft evaluators think that he's going to play guard at the next level. Roger Rosengarten. He is a Mel Kiper favorite. In one of his mock drafts, he had Rosengarten going to the Philadelphia Eagles. A little bit raw and inexperienced, but the ability is certainly there. Mel Kiper said if he went back to Washington for 2024, he thinks that he could develop into a top 10 pick, but he's getting that money right now, and he could go in the first round when all is said and done. Jarian Jones, the cornerback out of Florida State, a very good athletic tester, and he was very low on a lot of people's draft boards, but he's climbing up draft boards a little bit, and it's probably why Philadelphia wants to check in on the player here because he earned a 987 score on the relative athletic score. It's the athletic testing numbers from MathBomb. He's 5'11", can play inside, outside. Maybe he figures to be more of a slot guy with that lack of height. Excellent vertical leap, good broad jump. He ran a sub 4.4 40-yard dash. Kalen Carson, another player who can play on the inside and the outside. And you think back to that list that we showed you with these visits here on Eagles Now. They've met with a lot of offensive linemen and cornerbacks. 2 pressing needs for this Eagles team. The issue with Kalen Carson, he has missed 11 games over the last 3 years. And then you take a look at Phillips out of Kentucky. Some people have a first-round grade on him. Others have a second-round grade. 48 tackles, 1.5 TFLs this past year, 5 pass breakups, no interceptions. A very solid athlete for Kentucky in 2023. Next list of 5 players here. Marshawn Nealand, edge rusher out of Western Michigan. Chop Robinson, another edge out of Penn State. Trevin Wallace, linebacker out of Kentucky. Leatu Latu, edge rusher out of UCLA. And then Aeneas Smith, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M. Marshawn Nealand, when you watch him, the NFL size jumps right away. 6'3", 267 pounds. And this is a player who hasn't fully tapped into his potential yet, but he's starting to find his stride as a football player. And if Philadelphia is able to develop him, he has star potential. Could go first round, he could go second round, depending on a team's evaluation of him. You look at the sack production year by year, 2 sacks, 4.5, 1.5 sacks, 4.5. I think he's better as a second-round pick, but the pressure numbers very solid the last 3 years, 37 pressures, 25 and 23. Chop Robinson, one of my favorite players in this entire draft class. with the size that he has at 250 plus pounds, but his ability to get started with that elite blink of an eye first step allows him to win a lot of one-on-one matchups. His testing numbers pre-draft at the combine were stupid. 9.68 relative athletic score. Height, 6'2", 254. Great vertical, great broad. And if you're running a 4.48 at 250 pounds, when you have bend, when you have twitch, when you can set the edge, when you're pretty good against the run, you've got a spot in the league. And with the Eagles trading away Hassan Reddick, do they look to go edge rusher with their first-round selection? Scouting Wallace, 4'5", 140 at 237 pounds. So he's a smooth body mover. He does have the coverage range and the speed to cover tight ends. Sometimes he can over-pursue. He needs good coaching to maximize. If the Eagles do take him day 2, day 3, Vic Fangio has a background of developing linebackers. Latu. He medically retired from football a couple of years ago. Then he comes back and becomes a true sack artist for UCLA. 12.5 sacks in 2022, 12.5 TFLs in 2022, 21.5 TFLs in 2023, but 23.5 sacks over the last 2 years. 10.5 in 2022, and then this past year with 13. And he's combined for 65 pressures 2 years ago and 62 pressures this past year. It all comes down to the medicals for him. If he passes with flying colors, he could be one of those players who a team takes inside the top 20. The pro comp here, Elijah Moore, 5'9", 4'5", 40-yard dash, a lot of return ability, has wiggle. And the player here, absolutely competitive. This is Aeneas Smith, the wide receiver out of Texas A&M. That's the Elijah Moore comp. 5'9", 4'5", 40 guy. So not too quick at that size, but he's shifty. He's compact. He can make people miss in short areas. So ideally, when you have a wide receiver who's that short, you'd want Smith to run a little bit quicker. But when you have that wiggle and you're competitive, you have that return ability, you could be a day 3 guy. If you're pumped up for the NFL draft, please make sure you hit that thumbs up icon and you like the video, but also type "Go Birds" down in the comment section right now. Can't wait for it, and we'll be live for every single pick, every single round right here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Don't miss our coverage. As I mentioned off the rip, today's Eagles Now is sponsored by 8 Sleep. Get $200 off and free shipping on the new Pod 3 cover. It's sleep to power a whole new you. It'll improve your sleep by automatically adjusting your bed's temperature based on your individual needs. The cover can be added to any bed, like a fitted sheet, and it allows you and your partner to cool or warm your side of the bed as low as 55 degrees and up to 110 degrees. In addition to keeping you at the perfect temperature all night, the pod also tracks your sleep and health metrics. On average, pod users see their sleep quality improve by 32% after just 1 month on the pod. I'm telling you right now, for everybody watching, everybody listening, there's no better way to improve your day-to-day life better than sleep, and the easiest way to do that, 8 Sleep's Pod 3. Start the new year right. Invest in the rest that you deserve with the 8 Sleep Pod. Go to 8sleep.com/chatsports. $200 off and free shipping. It's a device that you put right next to your mattress, and then you can power everything right from your phone. It's the intelligent sleep system that you've been looking for. Me using it every single night. It's improved my sleep dramatically. $200 off using our link. Let's continue to move forward with our Eagles 30 visits tracker. Travis Glover, offensive tackle out of Georgia State. Brendan Rice, the son of Jerry Rice, USC wide receiver and a former Colorado transfer. Edgerrin Cooper, a lot of fans really like him, the linebacker out of Texas A&M. Zach Zinter, interior offensive lineman out of Michigan, coming off that broken leg. And then Cooper DeJean, another fan favorite, the defensive back out of Iowa. Travis Glover, a 6th or 7th round grade from me. Definitely gives you depth along the offensive line, which is what Philadelphia needs. He is not explosive as an athlete, but man, at that size, he is very powerful. He could play guard or offensive tackle. So versatility on top of the depth. As for Brendan Rice, a very, very good 2023 season where he had 45 catches, catching the rock from Caleb Williams, 791 yards, 17 and a half yards per catch. So a big play threat for USC this past year. He had 12 touchdowns and 2 drops on those 45 catches. Last 4 years, started his career at Colorado. He transfers to USC, and that's really where he was maximized in Lincoln Riley's offense. Those 12 touchdowns, putting him on a lot of draft boards to maybe be a sneaky second-round pick. I more so think he's going to go in the third. Edgerrin Cooper, an athletic, twitchy, fast linebacker who's instinctual and plays with a lot of swagger and a lot of confidence. A relative athletic score of 9.1. 40-yard dash, pretty solid at that size of 6'2", 238. A 4.51 40-yard dash. Been a sure-handed tackler throughout his Texas A&M career in 2023. Able to give the Aggies 84 tackles, 17 TFLs. He more than doubled up on that number from the previous season. And the Aggies started to use him as more of a blitzing linebacker. Imagine what Vic Fangio would be able to do. He had a half sack in his collegiate career before he had 8 in 2023. So that's a growing part of his game. Zach Zinter, one of the favorites for me because if he didn't break his leg against Ohio State Thanksgiving weekend, he could have been a second-round pick. Now he might fall to the 3rd or 4th round. I think he's a high-level starter in the NFL for the next 7 to 10 years. Jim Harbaugh does a great job of finding and developing offensive line talent. Zinter, another byproduct of that. Overall Pro Football Focus grade this past year of 76.6. Gave up 0 sacks, 0 hits, only 5 hurries on J.J. McCarthy. Also a smart player who's tough as nails. 0 penalties. Cooper DeJean, we've talked about him a lot here on the show. Just an overall freak athlete. Has a variety of techniques that he has in his bag at the cornerback spot. He anticipates very, very well. He's credited that with playing quarterback at the high school level. So just has an innate understanding of what's going to transpire at defensive back because he played signal caller at the quarterback position in high school. Big-time player who makes big-time plays too. Just fun with the football in his hands. He returned 3 of his 7 career interceptions for touchdowns. Has the versatility of Trent McDuffie. That's a good player comp there. And special teams value as a returner right from the jump. And with this new kickoff rule, can you use him there as a dynamic player who's a freak athlete? I saw Peter Schrager tweet out his basketball highlights too. Dude had some bounce. He was yamming on cats. Topper. Coming off a fractured fibula. That's a part of the weaknesses here, but he has been fully medically cleared. Gives up initial separation from time to time. Some questions. Is he a cornerback? Is he a safety? Sometimes he can get handsy in coverage, which can lead to penalties. Last of these 5 here. Tyler Guyton, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa, an interior defensive lineman. Cooper Beebe, an interior offensive lineman. Brandon Coleman, offensive lineman out of TCU. And then Christian Mahogany Wood. I like woodworking. That's a fun fact about me. Mahogany wood. Very nice. Christian Mahogany out of Boston College. Guyton, another player who I really like. Great prototypical size for an offensive tackle who you think can make it to a couple of Pro Bowls, right? 6'7", 322, very athletic. I saw him at the Combine. He is slender, so he doesn't have a lot of bad weight, meaning just that flubby weight. So he's in really good shape. Light and balanced in pass protection. Struggles a little bit as a run blocker. Inexperienced player. 15 career starts, and you can tell because he looks and plays like he's a little bit raw and inexperienced. Seems to be comfortable on that right side. Maybe in the future he goes to left tackle, but you just locked up Jordan Mailata there. If he stays motivated and if he stays healthy, the upside is major. Cooper Beebe is such a Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman. Played offensive tackle and guard with Kansas State. Guard maximizes his skill set because of those shorter arms. Sometimes when you have shorter arms as an offensive tackle, you hold, but you can get beat by the longer, lengthier edge rushers. He has a thick trunk, meaning a thick lower half, so he's tough to move, and that's why I think he's better along the interior, because he's going to be going up against some really big players. 4-year starter at Kansas State. In order to be a 4-year starter at a high-level program like that, you have to be smart, you have to be durable. If you enjoyed today's show, we wanted to inform you as much as possible. It's a little bit choppy when you have to talk about all of these players and inform everybody, but hopefully you were informed, and it's one of the big goals here on Eagles. Now, if you enjoyed it, give us a real one. All right, $82 in Super Chats. We are 18 away from $100 in Super Chats. Coming up next, a mailbag here on Eagles Now. Andrew Nathan, BB or Mahogany would be a great pick.
Let's see, we got some good questions, but we could use some more. So if you have a question, I've seen some people asking questions, not using hashtag Eagles. You got to use hashtag Eagles. We'll get your question there on the show. As many of you as possible. I want to get as many of you as possible, so get those questions in. Hashtag Eagles right now. Do it right now. Right now.
You heard the man.
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you right now.
For any NBA fans, Chip and I are Sixers fans, Giannis has a calf strain. That is the official diagnosis.
Okay, that injury was scary when it happened, man.
Yeah.
Very, very scary.
Very scary indeed. All right, hashtag Eagles or Super Chat.
$20 away from 100. If someone sends in a 20 right now before we start this segment in a couple minutes, I'll do a beer bong. If someone gets us to 100 in the next 2 minutes,
oh baby,
I'll do a beer bong.
Let's go. Let's go. David Marcello, what up, David? Giving us a real John. Tommy Curzio, go Eagles, go. Don Ackerley, a real one. Nick Stone, real one. Andrew Nathan, real one. Dragon, real one. Don Ackerley said Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He wants him. Last call for those mailbag submissions. Get those questions in. And then after our mailbag, shotgun and a beer for DeAdrian.
DeAdrian. Could use one or two more questions here. There we go. No, I thought you used hashtag Eagles.
Andrew Nathan, are we Romeo! Yo, Romeo. You weren't watching our show yesterday.
That was funny.
On the Niners Report, but you know how we're doing the monthly jersey races? You actually won a Niners jersey yesterday for supporting us on the Niners Report, Romeo. So I'll email you, and you can let us know, do you want a custom jersey? Do you want a player jersey? I'll be in contact. Peter Thurmond! There he is, real one Peter. Always sending me the most hilarious stuff on Instagram, by the way. I legit crack up at some of the DMs that Peter sends me. Just like funny memes and funny photos. That's my dog.
Let's go.
That's my dog. That's my dog. All right, shotgun in store after this mailbag. We ready to do it? We ready to rock?
I'm going to a beer bong as well after this mailbag.
All right, let's get it. Share Bear giving us a thumbs up. Thank you, Share Bear. Tommy Curzio, Eagles-Packers game. Friday Night Lights. Yeah, that's the breaking news that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Iron Mike, am I the only one upset about playing a team in Brazil that have the same colors as the Brazilian flag? It's going to be a lot of green in Brazil. 2 worldwide brands, Packers, Eagles. But come on now. You know Eagles fans are going to take over that stadium. Dennis Designs. Hey, Chase, I got my shirt. Thank you. thank you for supporting the show and being a legend, Dennis. If you want to send a photo of you wearing the shirt and you want to email it to me, Dennis, we will put it up on the show so that people know who you are and as a thank you to you, giving you a shout out. If you don't want to do that, all good, brother. All good, brother. What's like with this part that he does? All good, brother. Tuesday. Good stuff. Romeo. Oh, man, that Brazil color-ish for real. Can't take an L for week 1. No. Can't take an L week 1. No, sir. We'll do. When's the next live show? Next Wednesday. But if you send it to me like on a regular email, we can just pop it up on a regular video as well. So, all right, mailbag coming up right now. Rounding out our live coverage here. Segment number 4 of 4. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. Thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. There are so many other talented content creators out there, so many great Eagles content options. So anytime you decide to hang out with us, we appreciate you. That means that you're a real one. Before we take your questions on today's show and open up the floor to hear from our loyal subscribers, make sure you subscribe to the show if you haven't already done so. More draft content to come all throughout this month. We've done some draft content this week. We've been doing draft content for months at this point. So hit that sub button, lock us in, and as always, go Birds. Paul C. gets us started with the $5 super chat. If Brian Thomas, the LSU wide receiver, is available, do you think the Eagles pick him or another position like cornerback or offensive line? My read on what the Eagles do in the first round, they go offensive line. Offensive line depth is a little bit of an issue right now because Sua Opeta, Jack Driscoll, they left to go elsewhere in free agency to try to get some more run and some more playing time with their new respective teams. So now the Eagles are a little bit thin along the offensive line, and we know that's a position group that Howie Roseman always likes to invest in. Would not rule out a trade up for an offensive lineman. A Troy Fuatano out of Washington, an Amarius Mims out of Georgia, Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma, Graham Barton, offensive lineman out of Duke along the interior, Jackson Powers Johnson, another interior offensive lineman. He played center for Oregon. Those players are names to keep an eye out for the offensive line. But if the Eagles have Brian Thomas as one of the highest graded prospects on their draft board and he somehow falls, they have shown that they will go best player available regardless of need. And I do think wide receiver 3 is a need. Cornerback is a need. That's why I'm fascinated to see what the Eagles do. But right now, my read, offensive line for Howie Roseman on night 1. Jason Chadwick with the $5 super chat. And he corrected this with another message. He said, DeVonta Smith contract extension coming soon. I really would love Justin Simmons, but I want Xavier Worthy. So a couple of things to talk about here. First, the DeVonta Smith contract extension. Tim McManus, Eagles insider for ESPN, reported earlier this week that the wheels are in motion and the Eagles are working behind the scenes to sign DeVonta Smith to a long-term deal to keep him in Philadelphia for the foreseeable future. As of this recording during our live show on Wednesday, no new updates on the Justin Simmons front. It makes sense for so many reasons. Safety is still a need. It allows you to use C.J. Gardner-Johnson as a roamer, as a versatile chess piece. You were bad at forcing teams into turnovers last year. Justin Simmons leads the NFL in picks since coming into the league in 2016. Scheme familiarity. He played under Vic Fangio with the Denver Broncos, and he's a 4-time All-Pro in this league. He makes your defense better for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. It has been clear that Philadelphia's tried to get younger on defense this year. They had the 3rd oldest defense in the NFL in 2023. They've gotten a lot younger, but Justin Simmons is still playing at a really good level. And does he make your football team better? If the answer to that question is yes, I'm going after Justin Simmons. Andrew Nathan. I went back to look at past drafts, and when we traded up for Dillard, DeVonta Smith, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, we only moved up 1 to 3 spots. Do you believe it's more for an offensive lineman or defensive lineman than a defensive back? Personally, I want a defensive back. All of this is a very interesting conversation. And you're right. Howie Roseman has moved up a lot, and it hasn't been a sizable move up, with the exception of when he moved up for Carson Wentz, which actually took 2 different trades for the Eagles to get to number 2 to take him behind Jared Goff. And what's interesting is that per Spotrac's NFL draft picks value chart, the Eagles' picks in the first and second round, 22, 50, and 53, are, I think, the 4th most valuable behind Washington, the Bears, the Cardinals, New England Patriots. So they're 5th most valuable as far as all of those teams' first and second round picks combined. So if you trade 22 and 50, I think it allows you to move up several spots to get to the mid-teens to take a player that you like, and that's within range, I think, for Howie Roseman there, Andrew. David Marcella, first of all, F. Trizzy. What chance do we have of getting Justin Simmons or Patrick Surtain? Always F. Trizzy. My man barely produces for Eagles now any longer, but it's all good because I got the homie here, producer Chip, who's a lifelong diehard Eagles fan, who's crushing the game, and he helped us hire another real one in Reed Barkus, who's another Eagles fan. We have Eagles fans taking over the Chat Sports office. Go Birds! It's fantastic, but always F. Trizzy. And, of course, you're saying that as a joke because Trizzy's a legend here at Chat Sports. 2 other legends in Justin Simmons and Patrick Surtain. What are the chances of getting Simmons? Very good. If Howie wanted him, he could pay for him. The Eagles still have plenty of cap space left, and for the reasons that I just noted, I think it makes a lot of sense. Patrick Surtain, I don't think after the L'Jarius Sneed trade that you have to surrender and part with a first-round pick. Could you trade 50 and 53 and maybe a mid-round pick for Patrick Surtain? And could that move the needle for the Denver Broncos? Something to think about. Iron Mike 462. Am I the only one upset about playing a team in Brazil that has the same colors as the Brazilian flag? Spin zone? Eagles Kelly green colors? Very similar to the Brazilian colors. The Eagles also going to technically be the home team. They still have 8 home games next year, by the way, so it's not really taking one away. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the Eagles to play the first ever NFL game in Brazil. It's a great opportunity for the channel here to do a watch party on a Friday when all eyeballs are going to be on that game. It's a great opportunity as a litmus test game to see how Philadelphia fares and how they match up against a Packers team that I think is going to be one of the best teams in the NFL, one of the best teams in the NFC. Their roster is loaded. They're 4 or 5 deep at wide receiver, 2 deep at tight end. They signed Josh Jacobs as running back. They're retinkering with that defense. And it's just an opportunity to spread the Eagles brand nationwide. And I think Eagles fans are going to take over. Either way, going to be a lot of green in Brazil come September 6th. Peter Thurman, who is the one player you would move up in the draft for? The one player I would move up in the draft for. From 22. It's a good question. I mean, if Joe Alt falls outside of the top 10, I think he's going to be a future Hall of Fame right tackle. Now, you do have Lane Johnson. Alt might be too tall to play at guard, but my gosh, he is a dog who I absolutely love. If Dallas Turner falls outside of the top 10, you want to get your quick, twitchy edge rusher with a lot of bend, you can move up for Dallas Turner, the edge rusher out of Alabama. There aren't a lot of players that I think the Eagles would need to move up for. The player who I've talked about a lot, honestly, now that I think about it, I just had to rack my brain, Quinion Mitchell. I think Quinion Mitchell is the top corner in this draft class. And if he's there at 14, 15, could the Eagles move up from 22? So there we go. That answers the question there, Peter. I'm moving up for Quinion Mitchell. I think he's a number 1 caliber corner, great ball skills, a ton of pass breakups throughout his entire career. I don't worry about the lack of competition at Toledo. The production's been there. The athletic testing numbers were fantastic. He's long, he's lengthy, he's aggressive, he has swagger. He's just a perfect type of Eagles player. Reminds me a lot of Sauce Gardner. And would you have moved up for Sauce Gardner? I would have. Andrew Nathan, there aren't any reports that the Eagles are interested in Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Do you think it's because they knew all they need to know, or they aren't interested? It could be they're not all that interested. It could be they're very interested, but they know him very well because his dad was Jeremiah Trotter, and they don't need to do a lot of intel on the player. He could be a little bit too small for what they're looking for at the linebacker spot because he is a little bit smaller as far as his height, and he struggles a little bit against the pass. But look, when I turn on the tape, sometimes what I look for, instinctual players. And Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is an instinctual, smart player. Now, Nakobe Dean is a smaller linebacker. And maybe the Eagles are gun shy now because he's a smaller linebacker. He's been hurt. They don't want to draft another smaller linebacker. That could be an issue. But all of those things could be reasons why. Be sure to subscribe to us here on Philadelphia Eagles Now if you want to join our live shows, join our mailbags. That's an opportunity for you to do that. Thanks for watching the show, as always, and supporting us here at Chat Sports. All right. We got to do a shotgun here.
Yes, sir.
For Adrian.
Adrian.
And Chip has to do a beer bong.
I do. Some breaking news. Rashee Rice facing 8 counts, 8 charges in his case. He has an arrest warrant that's been issued for him for the multi-vehicle car crash that was right here in Dallas.
Wait, so there's an arrest warrant.
There's an arrest warrant out for Rashee Rice. He faces 8 charges.
Yet he met with police already.
Yeah, I don't know. I think
cooperated.
He cooperated, so I think he cooperated like the investigation sort of part of it, gathering all the details, and then now they have the details, and now they have issued an arrest warrant.
Man, tough week and a half for Rashee, huh?
Yeah, not good.
Romeo, what is the biggest defensive priority? I think edge rusher, defensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker, safety. All 3 levels of the defense. Just stockpiling young talent. But if you were to put those in order, cornerback 1, edge rusher 2, just because positional importance, but defensive tackle, Fletcher Cox retiring. Really, it's going to be telling. What do the Eagles think about Jordan Davis? Is he a 2-down player? Is he a 3-down player?
Yeah.
If they think that he's a 3-down player, they might not go defensive tackle early. If they don't like him, they might go defensive tackle early. But you want to get a linebacker in there. You have Devin White, Oren Burks, 1-year deals, though. Nakobe Dean, young backer, unsure, though. So you want that influx of youth at really all those positions that I talked about. All right, for Adrian, a shoddy piece.
Chug, 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 chug. Woo! Yes, sir. Faster than Rashee Rice, baby. Faster than Rashee Rice.
That's good stuff. Andrew Nathan asking if we were going to have boots on the ground in Detroit. We will not be in Detroit for the draft. I know that I've traveled a lot this year. Super Bowl, Combine, National Championship. But we will not be going to the draft. We're going to be here at the Chat Sports Studios. It just gives us more flexibility, and it's a sure thing. You don't have to deal with spotty Wi-Fi. You don't have to find a location. We're here. We have our studios. We have good Wi-Fi, and we're going to be live for every single pick all 3 days right here on Eagles Now. So, yeah, just not going to go to Detroit for the draft. Would be fun, but not going. No way. Andrew Nathan, NFL revised the uniform policy to allow 3 helmets. Is that for real? Interesting. Let me get that tweet from Pelly. That's what they're saying. So Kelly Green's part of the. Oh yeah, I see that. Part of the uniform lineup for the Eagles. Oh, opens to all clubs for 2025. So the NFL informed clubs today it has revised the uniform policy, which never made sense, by the way, to allow teams a third helmet design. This expansion was offered to the teams that were going through the redesign process for 2024 and is now open to all clubs for 2025. Why wait? It's just...
What's the reason to wait? I don't really understand that.
So the Eagles are going to have the three. It's going to be Midnight Green, Black, and Kelly Green, I would think, unless at some point they want to introduce a white helmet. That'd be fresh.
That'd be interesting. They have to execute that properly.
Raphael, come visit us in Brazil. What would I have to do to get the bosses to allow us to go to Brazil? How insanely cool would that be? Now, we probably wouldn't go to the game, but what if we were there for like the pregame festivities and then we just got an Airbnb in Brazil?
Meeting some of you guys.
Meeting some of the Eagles fans. Meeting Raphael.
Anyone else who comes down, like...
That'd be sick.
That'd be electric. That's why I'm so glad they're playing in this game. When's the last time they played in a international game? Did they play in...
I don't remember.
I don't know
if they've played in London.
I don't think they played in London.
Because I can't remember waking up like really early for a game.
Yeah. It's not, every team that has.
Oh, you know what? They beat the Jags in London in 2018. 24-18. And then...
Isn't it crazy that's 6 years ago coming up?
Yeah, crazy. Prior to that, the Eagles played preseason games in Mexico City in 78, London 89 and 91, and then Tokyo in 93.
So just their second regular season game outside the States.
Yeah. Wild.
White helmet with the green wings and gray face masks. I picture that right now. That would look pretty clean.
I've seen some mocks looking like that. All right, Chip.
Yes, sir. This is Romeo, Peter, real ones for everybody joining us today. Let's send him back.
Send it back. Send it back. Chug, chug, chug.
Woo!
Like it ain't nothing.
Oh.
Like it ain't nothing.
Ugh.
All right. Chip and I are going to sign off. We're going to dip out. Thanks to everybody who watched the show today. The breaking news, Philadelphia Eagles playing. We know the opponent now. Green Bay Packers. Week 1, September 6th in Brazil. Plenty of draft content that we also uncovered on the show too. DeVonta Smith contract extension update. King Javier. Every $100 super chat. WWE 2K24 Royal Rumble. That would be crazy. Andrew Nathan, great show today. Thank you, man. Don Ackerley saying see ya. We will see all of you. For Chip, I'm Chase. Go Birds. We out. Peace.